Okay.
Recording is on.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight Clarity series. My name is Abolari Emmanuel. Okay, so a bit of housekeeping before we go deeply into what we have for you tonight. All right. If you know anybody that is meant to be on this call that is not here presently, I want you to send them a DM, send them a message, and let them know that the session has commenced. All right. Let them know that we are live already. Okay. They don't want to miss this session. Me, myself, I am very pumped up for tonight's session. All right. So, welcome once again to Scale It Clarity series. This is our weekly program where verified experts on Scale It share practical wisdom, and you get the opportunity to book a one on one session or join their coaching call after this session. So, for tonight, we are going to be focusing on emotional leverage operating system. Okay, so let me just introduce the expert that will be taking us through this session tonight. Her name is Peace Amakwe. She's a medical doctor and performance strategist. She doesn't teach motivation or emotional intelligence. She built emotional control system for high level leaders. Talk about CEOs, CTOs, founders, COO, CFO, etc. One emotional mistake under pressure can cost you a deal, weaken your authority, and destroy relationship that took years to build. We all understand how this works, right? So because of our knowledge and practical awareness in this field, she created the emotional leverage operating system, and which is a structured system that track and improve your reaction control, decision stability, and influence and your influence under pressure. So, the emotional leverage operating system is built for founders, like I said, CEOs, COO, executive, and deal makers who operate under constant pressure and cannot afford emotional mistake. So, this session is practically for everybody, every single business owner, every founder, every executive, and every decision maker. As an individual, you are a decision maker. As an executive, you are a decision maker. You make decision every day. In fact, today you made numerous decision whether you should go out or stay at home, whether you should, you know, do a certain task or leave it, right? Those are basic decision we take every day. So before I allow you to go into what you have in stock for us, right? I just have a question. I'm very curious as to how you came about this system, the emotional leverage operating system. How you came about it? Can you just give us a brief before I allow you to go into what you already prepared for us on your slide? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I audible enough?
Yes, I can hear you. Can anybody hear me?
Yes,
I want to be sure I'm
we can hear
still
you very clearly.
okay.
Yep. Did you get the question I asked? Did you get the question? Can you hear me? Please, I would like to get feedback. So I'm not just talking to myself.
Okay, it seems like when I leave the app to go to the to share my screen.
Okay.
It's you no longer hear me,
No, I can't hear you.
right?
You know, at all.
Okay, so you aren't hearing me then.
Yes, not at all.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, because I want us to be following the okay, to answer your question, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you all for being here. I know that we are all busy, but we made our time. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate you being here. Your question, how I came about this. I am a medical doctor, so I'm always working in I'm always working under pressure from the emergencies we have to seeing patients. You would have to see patients at the same time. When there's an emergency, you would leave the patient to come and attend. And we know that there are very few people here that the doctors are. So we know that there are very few doctors now, right? So there are few of us, and we have to still. So the pressure in the workplace is there, and also I've also observed that in high stakes environment, there are there are other leaders that face similar pressure. Even worse, I studied leaders. I studied the way they operate, the people that cut deals, and I found out that this is a problem that people have not learned to solve on why they are under pressure. They seem to be themselves when the pressure is not there, but once they are under pressure, you see them. They just the operating system that has always been there reveals itself, and in that moment they lose leverage. In that moment, you see someone that had come in confident about the day, confident about closing a deal, confident about going on with the operations of, or the executions for that day, being completely without planning. Like they didn't plan it and they are completely taken off. They lose leverage. And it happens so quietly that it's not noticeable, but it happens. And guess what? These people go back throughout they go back later in the day when they are done with the day's events, and their mind keeps going through all these things. And they pick out moments when they know that, oh, this is where I would have reacted better, this is what I should have done. I shouldn't they would pick out those moments. There are moments where they would regret, and but it has already been done. But then when you are able to train or change the operating system for which you run, it shows up even when you're under pressure. It shows up both subconsciously and consciously. It's always running. So that is how emotional leverage operating system came about.
Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, I think that gives us a good understanding of what we're about to, learn tonight. So I'll allow you to go into food into details so that we'll just pay attention and learn because I'm here to learn. I'm with my notes so that I can just we can learn very well. Okay, concerning your slide, I think you can't share screen using phone for this app. So I don't know how you will navigate this session. So over to you. You can proceed with what you have for us tonight.
Okay, yes. There is no problems. I'm already joining through another device so that I can be able to share screen with this device.
That's very
Okay,
fine. Thank you so much.
yes. Okay, so before we begin, I would like to ask us a very important question. Okay, I Joyce, I, I just joined with another device. But it's going to be a problem now because they're too close together. Let
You
me
you
just.
can just mute the other device, mute it completely, like turn the volume off.
Can you hear me now?
We
Oh,
can hear you, but it's still re-echoing. Okay, we can see this slide.
how about now?
It's better, but there's still echo in the background.
And now?
It's better now.
Okay. So before we begin, I'd like to ask us questions. First of all, have you ever sent a message and 5 minutes later you wished you hadn't sent that message? Or have you ever spoken in anger and spent days trying to fix the relationship? Have you ever making an important decision, not because you didn't know what to do, but because you just couldn't take any move yet? Have you ever walked to a meeting determined to stay calm, only to find yourself reacting in a way that you didn't plan? Or maybe someone says one sentence and somehow that sentence stayed in your head for the next 3 days. Now, and if you've experienced any of those things, welcome, you're human. Here is what I want us to think differently tonight. Most people see these moments as isolated incidents. You hear things like, I was just tired, stressed, I was angry, or I was having a bad day. But I don't see these moments as isolated incidents. I see patterns. Because after working with people, observing leaders, studying behavior and decision making, I noticed something. People rarely lose because they don't know enough. More often, they lose in moments that last 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. And yet, these few seconds can change the direction of an entire business, a marriage, a career, or a friendship. I want you to think about it. One emotional email or one defensive reply, one impulsive investment, one angry resignation, one careless statement during a negotiation, one moment of ego, fear, hesitation. Sometimes that is all it takes. And yet, when those things happen, what do we usually do? We blame strategy, we blame the economy, we blame our team, we blame competitors, we blame bad luck. But it's not bad luck. It's not these things is not a result of events that are outside us. Sometimes it's inside us. So let me ask you another question. How many of us believe that intelligence is important? How many of us? Of course, knowledge is important. Knowledge matters. Experience matters. Technical competence matters, right? But let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone who was incredibly intelligent, yet impossible to work with? Someone who knew everything but kept damaging relationships? Someone who had amazing ideas but never seemed to execute consistently? Someone who could build but couldn't sustain. We've all met people like that. And if you're honest, sometimes we've been that person ourselves. So clearly, I want to both excellent university and finance, both of them are capable to have access to capital, and both of them have brilliant one, and the other is and problems here and there. What is Many people will say, "Oh, this person worked harder." Well, maybe some people will say the first person had more money. Maybe some will say the first person was luckier. Maybe. But there's another possibility that we don't talk about enough. Yet it happens more often than people have figured. One of them learned how to stay emotionally effective under pressure. Other didn't. Because pressure doesn't create character. Pressure reveals the operating system that you are already running or that you've already been running. That is why two people can face the exact same price, use completely different one works. One listens, negotiates, the other thinks different, and asking a question. What if success at the highest level is not about intelligence? What if it's about maintaining leverage over yourself, especially when the pressure is highest? Now, this is the phrase I want us to remember tonight. Many people have influence over others, but few people have influence over themselves. You can lead 1,000 employees and still lose control of your own emotions. You can negotiate billion naira deals and still allow one difficult conversation at home to completely destabilize your week. You can command a boardroom and still struggle to recover after criticism. And that is not a knowledge problem. It's not even a motivation problem. It's a problem of operating system. And here is the mistake I think that we have made for years. We've treated emotions as something personal, when in reality, emotions are operational. Emotions affect your execution in the workplace. They affect your leadership. They affect decision making. They affect recovery. They affect trust. They affect influence. They affect money. Tonight, I'm not here to convince you to be more emotional. I'm here to show you that your emotions are already influencing your performance, whether you notice it or not. Now, the only question is, are they working for you? Or are they working against you? And that is the conversation we are going to have tonight. So we spent the first few minutes talking about something I call emotional miscalibration. If emotions have this much influence over our decisions, our leadership, and our performance, have then what exactly are we supposed to do about it? Yes, the answer has been emotional intelligence. And let me be very clear. I believe that emotional intelligence is valuable. If you've ever read books or attended a training, you've probably learned things like be self aware, manage your emotions, understand other people, build better relationships. Those are very important skills. But after studying high performance and observing leaders under real pressure, I realized something. Emotional intelligence explains what good emotional behavior looks like. It doesn't always teach you how to produce that behavior consistently when the stakes are high. There's a difference. Now, let me give you an example. I don't know, but I know that some of us must have driven, we drive, right? So imagine you're in your car and you are driving. To be driving, first of all, already know about driving. You already know how to drive. You already know the speed limit, the traffic rules. You know how to drive safely. You know putting seat belts. You know all those things. That is knowledge. But imagine that you are driving and imagine that as you are driving, someone suddenly swerves into your lane. In that split second, your performance or what you do is not determined by what you know. It's not determined by the traffic rules, the speed limits that you know, or how to drive safe. It's determined by what you have trained yourself to do under pressure. Because as you see that pressure increases, the brain takes note of that. So what you do at that moment is determined by what you've trained yourself to do under pressure. And that is the difference between emotion and an operating system. That's the difference between information and an operating system. So the same thing happens in leadership. Most executives know that they already know that they shouldn't react in anger. They already know that they should listen carefully. They already know that they should not send us when they're more emotional or when their emotions are up and down. Problem isn't that they don't know. The problem is that when the pressure rises, their emotional operating system takes over. And under pressure, we don't rise to the level of our intentions. We usually fall back to the level of our conditioning. And that is why two leaders can attend the same leadership seminar, read the same books, have the same qualifications, and still behave completely differently during a crisis. One will ask questions, the other one would make assumptions. One will strengthen trust, the other person damages relationships. The knowledge is the same, but the operating system is not. And that is what led me to the concept of emotional leverage. So, what is emotional leverage? It's the ability to keep your emotions working for you instead of working against you, especially when the pressure is highest. It's not about suppressing emotions like most people think. It's not about pretending like you don't feel frustrated, disappointed, afraid, or angry. Those emotions are part of being human. So the question here is, who is in charge? Are your emotions in charge? Are, are they the ones directing your decisions? Or are your values, principles, and your long term goals directing them? Because if your emotions make every important decision for you, then your emotions it costs opportunities, it costs trust, it costs costs businesses, and sometimes it costs you years. So let me actually ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that some people recover very quickly after a setback? Have you noticed? Like a deal for they learn from it, they adjust, they move forward. Another person experiences the same setback, and 6 months later, they are still stuck emotionally. What is the difference? It's not the event, but it's the operating system. The recovery process is different. And that is why ELOS isn't built around motivation, it's built around systems that proven effective, because systems create consistency and consistency creates confidence. So think about your smartphone. You probably don't think about the operating system that smartphone you are using every day. When you hold your smartphone or when you are using it, you are usually thinking about WhatsApp, email, calls, Chrome, photos, banking apps, games, if you are the game type. You rarely think about Android or iOS, but all of those apps depend, they work because there is an operating system underneath running everything. If the operating system becomes slow or it becomes corrupted or crashes, all the apps are affected. And everything about your phone depends on the phone's operating system. In the same way, your emotional operating system affects everything you do: how you think, how you recover, how you negotiate, how you decide, how you lead, and how you influence other people. And the thing about your operating system, the thing about your this emotional leverage operating system is that it doesn't run only during difficult moments. No, it's running all the time. So imagine a company with the best employees, the best technology, and enough capital, but the CEO makes poor decisions every time pressure increases. Still, the company reach, like, when the CEO makes poor decisions every time that something happens, every time that pressure increases, will that company reach its potential? Probably not. Why? Because the quality of the entire organization is limited by the quality of the decisions at the top. Your mind works the same way. You may have knowledge, you may be the smartest in the room, very intelligent with all the qualifications, you may have experience, you may have technical skill, but when pressure shows up, what happens? It's your emotional operating system that is now the CEO of your decisions. Your emotional operating system becomes the CEO of decisions. So if that operating system is weak, every other strength you have becomes less effective. Your emotional operating system is the CEO behind every decision that you make. If it performs well under pressure, which is very important, your leadership performs well under pressure. But if your operating system breaks down under pressure, everything built on top of it begins to suffer. The problem is that most of us never intentionally designed our emotional operating system. We inherited parts of it from childhood, from past experiences, from success, failure, culture, habits. And some of those patterns help us, but some of them quietly limit us. What if you could identify these patterns? What if you could intentionally redesign them? What if emotional response becomes as is the question that led to the development of ELOS? Not a collection of motivational ideas, but a structured system for helping leaders understand how they function under pressure, strengthen their emotional control, for helping leaders improve decision quality, increase influence, and recover faster after setbacks. Because when you change the operating system, everything built on top of it begins to perform correctly. So we've talked about why emotional leverage matters. Now, the next question is, how do you actually build it? Because awareness alone doesn't change performance. Let me give you an example. Imagine you go into the hospital and the doctor tells you that your blood pressure is high. That is a very valuable information. But knowing that your blood pressure is high is enough. That doesn't lower it. It doesn't make the blood pressure to reduce. Something has to change after the diagnosis is made. The same is true emotionally. Many people already know that they have a short temper. Many people already know that they procrastinate. Many people know they struggle with criticism. Many people know they overthink. Many people know conversations. The question is not, do you know? The question is, do you have a system that changes it? And that is why ELOS exists. Emotional leverage operating system is not a collection of motivational talks or six unrelated modules. It is an integrated operating system. And I want you to think about building a house. When you are building a house, you're not going to start with the roof. You're going to start with this foundation. And every stage in that building, every stage in the journey will prepare you for the next one. Emotional leverage operating system works exactly the same way. Each phase, each phase builds on the previous one until emotional control becomes part of how you naturally think, decide, lead, recover, and perform. So let me briefly walk you through the journey. The first step is awareness. Everything starts here because what you haven't understood, you cannot improve. Except you understand something, then you'll be able to improve it. For instance, imagine trying to fix your business without knowing where you're losing money. You will just be guessing. Yet, that is how many people approach personal growth. They know something is wrong, but they cannot explain what it is. So, first phase helps you answer questions like, okay, what situations trigger me? How do I typically respond under pressure? Which emotional patterns are helping me, and which ones are quietly costing me opportunities? We don't guess, we measure, and you complete assessments and you identify patterns, you receive a personal emotional risk profile, and by the end of this phase, you are no longer reacting blindly. You begin to see yourself with clarity. You understand what is actually happening to you. The next step is command, and this is the phase where you learn how to control your patterns. Many people struggle here because they think that emotional control means suppressing your emotions. No, it doesn't. In this phase, you go through the frameworks that give you control over your patterns. We train practical skills for staying calm under pressure. Whether you are negotiating, leading a difficult conversation, receiving criticism, or making a high stakes decision, the goal is to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. Because every unnecessary reaction reduces your leverage. The next step is discipline. And this one addresses one of the biggest frustrations high performers experience: inconsistency. Have you ever had days where you are incredibly productive, other days where you couldn't seem to get started? Most people blame motivation. Oh, they are not motivated. Oh, they don't feel like. But motivation comes and goes. Sustainable performance is not built on systems. Sustainable performance is built on systems and not feelings. So this phase helps you build habits and structures that allow you execute consistently even on the days that you don't feel like it, because your income, your business, your leadership, your impact should not depend on your mood. Now the next step we have is leadership intelligence. Leadership isn't just about having good ideas. Leadership is about influencing people as well. So at some point, every leader is going to realize that technical competence is no longer enough. That you are very good at what you do, no longer enough. They will realize it at a point. At a point, they will realize that they need people. They need people to trust them. You will need people to trust you. You need people to understand you. You need to handle conflicts without damaging relationships. You need to communicate in ways that build confidence rather than confusion. And that is what this phase focuses on. It focuses on leading people, managing difficult conversations, strengthening influence, maintaining authority without becoming controlling. Because influence is one of the highest forms of leverage. And then you have the fifth step, resilience. Life will test every leader. Life will test every leader. As long as you're a founder, an a high performer, you pressure is naturally part of the work. You can't work without expecting it. You can't see something that hits you, maybe an unexpected thing that hits you, and you're wondering, oh, why now? Why is no? It's part of it. There will be setbacks, disappointments, failures, unexpected crisis, criticism, pressure. The question is not whether those moments will come. The question is how quickly you will recover when they do. People spend months emotionally recovering from one difficult experience. Others learn, adapt, and move forward. The difference is resilience. This phase helps you build that recovery capacity, not so that you avoid pressure, but so pressure doesn't define your future. The final step, integration. This is where everything comes together. By this point, emotional leverage is no longer something you think about occasionally. It becomes part of how you naturally lead, how you make decisions, how you communicate, how you recover, how you influence others. And this is where the system becomes personal. Throughout the program, you've been collecting insights about yourself, your strengths, your risks, your decision patterns, your leadership style, your recovery patterns. But in this final phase, those insights are brought together into your own personal emotional leverage blueprint. I want you to think of it as your personal operating manual. Practical guide you can return to whenever you are facing pressure, uncertainty, conflict, or a major decision. Because no two leaders are exactly the same. The blueprint is built around how you function. And we'll look deeper into this in a few minutes. Now, one question that people often ask is how do you know whether I am improving? And that is why ELOS doesn't rely only on how you feel. Throughout the journey, we are measuring your progress using the emotional leverage score. So we are tracking growth in four key different areas: your ability to control reactions, ability of your decision making, your so this score gives you personal development programs don't provide. It gives you an evidence, not inspiration. Transformation that can be observed and measured. So when someone asks, oh, what's changed? You don't just answer, I feel better. You can point to specific improvements in how you think, decide, lead, and perform. And this is the heart of ELOS. Not simply helping people understand emotions, but helping them build an emotional operating system that strengthens every area of leadership and performance. I want to understand this is ELS better. And we're going to look deeper into the four key areas. Now, just as businesses track revenue, profits,
This is wicked.
customer satisfaction, or operational performance. We also track emotional performance using ELS, not because emotions are everything, but because emotional performance influences everything else that you do. And the first, reaction control. When pressure rises, how well do you maintain composure? How often do you react impulsively versus responding intentionally? Decision stability. Do your decisions remain consistent under pressure? They change based on fear, frustration, or temporary emotions. Influence under pressure. That's the third one. Can you communicate clearly, build trust, and maintain credibility when the conversation becomes difficult? Then finally, recovery speed. After a disappointment, after criticism, after failure, how quickly do you gain clarity and effectiveness? These four dimensions are measured at the beginning of the program, during the journey, and also at the end of the program. Why? Because we want your transformation to be visible, not just to you, but in the way you lead, decide, and perform. Now, another question. What happens after someone goes through a loss? Because at the end of the day, it's not about completing the phases, it's about becoming a different kind of leader. I want you to imagine doing this tonight, and then on Monday morning, you walk into your nothing around you has changed. Your team is the same, your client responsibilities, but then something someone challenges your idea in a meeting. Instead of become curious, a difficult email lands in your inbox, and instead of replying immediately, you make use of the tools that make you respond in a way that the outcome. Even when the negotiation is becoming tense, instead of allowing emotions to reduce your influence, you remain calm and your leverage. A business, even if a business setback should happen, instead of spending weeks emotionally drained, you recover, you learn, you adjust, and you move forward. I want you to notice something in all of these examples I gave. The world didn't change, you changed. And because you changed, your results begin to change. That is what emotional leverage looks like in real life. It's not dramatic, it's often quiet. Over weeks, months, and years, those small decisions compound into extraordinary outcomes. Have better conversations, better decisions, better recovery again and again. That is how leaders are built. Now, here is something that makes ELOS very personal. Two people can complete the same program and live with completely different blueprints. Why? Because two leaders are never exactly the same. Some struggle with overthinking, others struggle with impatience. Some avoid conflict, others create unnecessary conflict. Some recover quickly but they react impulsively. Others stay calm in the moment but carry emotional weight for weeks afterwards. So rather than forcing everyone into one formula, ELOS is designed to understand how you operate, and throughout the days, you will be gathering all those information about yourself, your recovery habits, the blind spots, your strengths, leadership style, decision making tendencies. You'll be gathering all of them, and at the end of the program, all of those insights come together in what I already mentioned earlier, your personal emotional leverage blueprint. I often describe it as your leadership operating manual, and it's something you can return to before major decisions, during seasons of pressure, after setbacks, when leading your team through uncertainty, when navigating difficult relationships, instead of asking leaders, instead of asking yourself what should leaders generally do in situations like this, you already know what works best for you. So that is the power of personalization. Because emotional mastery is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the most effective version of yourself. Now let me mention one final part of the program. At the end of the program, participants who successfully complete the required work and demonstrate measurable growth are awarded a certified emotional leverage strategies or selves. And that is a certificate that is issued by fellow people leadership institutes. I want to be very clear about something. This certification is not given simply because someone attended. It's earned. So participants complete the full journey, they apply the principles, they submit real world implementation work, and they demonstrate measurable progress. Why is that important? Because in leadership, credibility doesn't come from participation, it comes from performance. And that is the standard that we want this certification to represent. As we begin to close, I want to leave you with one final thought. Every day, each of us is making decisions. Some of those decisions seem small, some are life changing, but behind every decision is an emotional system that is either helping us or quiet whether you have emotions. Every human does. The question is whether your emotional system has been intentionally developed to support the level of leadership, influence, and responsibility that you've been called to carry. My hope is that tonight has helped you see emotional leverage differently, not as a soft skill or a personality trait, but as a strategic advantage. Because when you learn to lead yourself well, you become far more capable of leading everything else well. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for enlightening us tonight. So I've learned a lot. And part of what I was able to glean, the network is quite terrible and horrible in this area. I think because of the rain, the network is bad. But we're able to get some of the things you said. And I would just encourage everyone to watch the replay when it is uploaded so that you can, you know, get the complete details in case your network also is as bad as mine. Okay, so you said something about pressure reveal the operating system you have been running with, right? That pressure brings us to that point where what is actually hidden inside us is revealed at all cost. So very profound. And you said the word didn't change, you changed, right? Profound also. So I will allow those that are on this call to just ask question. That is Paulina, Abdul Basit. Good evening. If you have a question, you can just unmute your mic and ask. All right. Uduak Samuel is not okay. I think he left the call already. Okay.
All right, my question,
Go ahead.
can I proceed?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My question goes more like this. It's actually a case of me having to, as a leader, I would say, trying to merge my learning process and as well executing my business, or I'll say leading my business. How do I find a bit of lapse, or should I say overlaps in that case? So how do I come to terms with balancing and then as well not being emotionally uh, overwhelmed in that case?
Okay.
Okay, okay. So your question is, you're having issues with your problems with your business, and you're looking for how to go about for problems with the business and also emotionally handling it. I'll start with the emotional part since that is where I'm an expert in. So, like I said, it all has to do with the emotional system where you have to. There are a lot of things, a lot of phases. I won't begin to teach them here because again, it's part of the system, and if you'd want to go through that, you would have to sign up for the ongoing beta cohort. But one of the things that will help you is actually coming to terms with what kind of what is the outcome that you want and how will you get there. So at the end of the day, the reason why those the reason why the emotions remain is because your mind is too focused on the threats that outcome you want. So when you think about the outcome more often, it shifts your brain and your emotions will follow suit. What is more important is not the threat. What is important is the way out of it. Because like I said, you're going to be if you're doing things like a business, as long as you're doing things like that, where high stakes are involved, pressure is part of it. So from there, your brain it shifts your brain into the solution mode, and then you take it up from there. Then you now find out what to do about the business. So I'm not a business expertise, so but and I don't know the business. So based on what the business is, at least that will shift your brain and wholly you need to shift a lot of your focus from the threat to the outcome you want. And then you ask yourself, what is the next best step to take? And then let 90 to 99% of your focus be on that. Shift the mental energy. That helps. Okay, okay. Any other question?
All right. Abdul Basit, are you clear? All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Is there any other question? Um, Paulina, is there any question from your end? Okay. In the absence of questions, let me just say thank you so much, Peace, for tonight's session. Yeah. So this session have brought clarity to us about the emotional leverage operating system and all that we need to know about it. So I was very curious about the old stuff. So, but now I have clarity enough. And if someone should ask me questions in this line, I will be able to answer to a certain extent. Thank you so much. All right. So, for everyone that is on the call and those that will be watching the replay, so if you need to book a session, you can book a session with her on the Scale It platform. All right. Her name is Peace Amakwe. All right. So just search for her name on the platform and you'll be able to book a one-on-one session, or you can subscribe to her coaching also. Okay. So thank you once again, and I think we can call it a night since there is no other question. Thank you, everyone. So see you next week for another session. Good night.